Hi, welcome back to Cheers to Design. My name is Aaliyah, and today my guest has been a huge mentor to me. He also happened to be my hospitality studio professor I had sophomore year at Arizona State University, and he really helped me find my passion for hospitality design. Today on this episode, we're going to be talking about identity, culture, and interior design. So please welcome my guest, Ollie.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited for this today
Yeah. All right. So cheers.
since it's hot outside,
Yeah, it's how hot in Arizona?
114 degrees. It's not it's not a good time to be here outside. It's not a good time because of COVID.
Yep. Get away from Arizona.
Wear a
I'm excited.
mask. Wear a mask. Yeah, you're smart. You escaped.
I know.
I'm not.
You're just living life.
I'm just living life. I'm living the Corona AZ life, that's for sure.
Great. So do you want to tell everyone your journey and how your career so far up until this point?
My background, I'm an Arizona State alum times two. I went there for undergrad for architecture and I did my master's in interior architecture. Right after school, I worked for a really small company called Gensler. They have about over close to 50 offices worldwide. I was there for a year, so I was working on workplace and financial retail. Did that for a year, and then I hopped over to a small firm called Barnapkin Productions. They are a creative agency, specializes in hospitality and branding and strategy as well. That was a huge kind of going from a big macro to micro firm, which was actually what I needed, especially this early on in my career. I've always wanted to do hospitality as well. So my three focuses I focus on is retail, hospitality, and workplace design. I absolutely love how it's evolving, those three practice area types, especially workplace too. And especially with COVID-19 going on right now, everything is shifting right now, which is crazy. So up until March, when COVID came trickling here and became a trend, I I was actually one of I was me and one of my colleagues were laid off, and um, there was a huge pause, not only at our firm but all over the world, which it's a very unprecedented uh, moment that we're going through, and it's kind of hard because some people are having a hard time kind of navigating through this right now. And I've seemed to be very hopeful during this time, which has been really nice because it's given me a lot of time to really self-reflect what I've been doing for the past 2 years, and um, and it's been great. I've just been doing a lot of research on COVID-19. So I've been doing a lot of the CEUs through IIDA and ASID. And I'm actually now studying for the WELL exam. So I'm going to be taking that coming up soon. And then I'm my I was actually supposed to take the first exam for the NCIDQ in April, and
COVID
obviously
was getting crazy.
that was when COVID was getting a little nuts, and the CIDQ and the Prometric Center emailed me, and they were like, "Yeah, this is going to have to be postponed till the fall."
So can you talk about who or what influenced you into going interior design? Maybe any designers that you follow or architects?
So my favorite architect is Luis Barragan. He's like one of the earliest like queer designers that I really admired, especially adaptive reuse projects. Especially he uses a lot of colors. I was in high school and I actually wanted to go into medical school. Like I wanted to become a doctor. But growing up, I was always artistic. I think when I was approaching graduation, like of high school, I realized I cannot handle my own blood. So I was like, all right, all right, let's
That's not
try
for
out architecture. Yeah, so I went out to Europe for like the very first time in 2010. Family and I went out to Germany and Czech Republic, and I've traveled many different countries and uh, pretty much all over the world and domestically here in the United States. And I think that was the type of architecture I was really introduced when I was going over there, and especially in Berlin too. Berlin's got amazing architecture, interiors. I mean, it's such a diverse city, and it's so historical too. And I mean, from modernism to postmodernism, I mean, there's just so much that was exposed there. And I was like, all right, I think I want to go into architecture. Like, I was really confident about going into it because I was really inspired. I think one of the architects work that I saw out there was Dorman Foster, British architect, my favorite. I've seen different architecture around the world, and that's really, I think, what got me to interiors today. I mentioned, I think it's more the emotional side of the users. I really enjoy, especially like the mood and atmosphere of the space and branding too. You know, creating a memorable space. I think that's important, especially like the memories too.
Interior design seems to be predominantly white and female. And for me personally,
Yep.
I really feel like I kind of fit in, but sometimes I don't really fit in because I identify myself as Asian and Jewish American identity. So I just want
Hmm.
to know if you have felt that way, or with everything change,
Yep.
all the changes in the world right now, I think there is hope for more diversity. And if you've ever experienced anything like that, and what your identity is, and how it's affected your design and your career.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you brought up a good point in terms of the political climate that we're in right now. The architecture side has always been this white, predominantly white
Male.
male. I don't know how to describe it, white male. And yeah, with interior design, it's always been white female, which is, it's interesting because there needs to be more female architects and there needs to be more male interior designers, interior architects. It's become a lot more diverse now. I mean, the students we went to in school, undergrad and grad school, I had a lot of Chinese classmates that I'm still good friends with. That was really awesome. I went to a really white, I mean, I grew up in Scottsdale, which is predominantly really white, affluent neighborhood, and there was some little bit of diversity. I mean, I grew up with a lot of Jewish friends. I mean, there were some Persian, there was some Indian, so I can really relate to both my culture, my heritage. But it was really hard for me when I was growing up, just kind of finding, you know, self-discovering my own identity and stuff, and you know, being a queer designer. And that was really interesting, just coming into college. And I've noticed that it's diverse, it's really becoming diverse. And I think I feel like there are a lot of queer designers in our industry, both in architecture and interior design. There's always been this conversation where there's not a lot of queer design being implemented out there. I think that needs to start changing a lot more. I think with what's been going on with the Black Lives Matter, NOMA, I actually was part of NOMA, and such a great organization. And I'm still in touch with a lot of colleagues that are in the Phoenix chapter. And I have I have witnessed prejudice in workplace environments, and I've seen it in school too. And I don't think it's there's no equity. I think as us designers and minorities too, we need to advocate for each other. And I'm really glad that the Black Lives Matter movement is happening right now. And I feel like a lot of architecture firms around the world are taking action and making this a ongoing conversation of how to create a better safe environment for all of us, and how do we foster you know upcoming young designers like us, diverse and that are minorities too. And I'm very grateful that I I have the privilege of growing up and accessing to these resources and getting to where I'm at today. And I've always done a lot of action for the community as well, doing a lot of community action work, especially representing my own community as well. I think people are like, oh wow, like he is a queer designer and he's helping me out with this homeless shelter.
In our conversations, we talked about how you identify as a designer, and you said you are a transdisciplinary designer. Can you just
Hmm.
talk a little bit about that, like what that means and how it's been influenced into your own designs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, I'm also a collage artist too, so I do digital media, and I've been exposed to being around graphic designers, collaborating with them. I've been exposed to working with architects, interior designers. Um, I keep myself informed in different ways, across the board with industrial designers. Not only that, but also um, commercial real estate brokers to um, working with local politicians. I think for myself, I keep myself grounded to absorb a lot more and being more informed to do a lot of different things, because I don't want to inhibit myself just doing interior design. I take on different tasks and different roles as a designer. I put one hat on, I put another hat on. It's not a bad thing. I think it just gets you exposed to a lot more
Oh, yeah.
um, about what's around us. And I think it's important as young designers, because we want to be able to learn different new programs and being more informed with what's going on around the world. And I love research too. Absolutely love research. That's one of the reasons why I went to grad school. I my my long-term goal is to be a design strategist, and I absolutely love you know finding solutions, and just sort of this rush and this energy is super exciting when working on a new project and getting the facts, and whether it's you know observing people to observing an existing space. That's a designer I am. I like to keep myself. I like to learn new things, even though it's out of my comfort zone or out of my shell. I want to be able to say, "Hey, I've tried that before."
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I take a lot of inspiration from my own Japanese background. I take a lot of inspiration from just like the clean lines of architecture and design in Japan, and then traveling. My family and I, we travel a lot. And I've been to Israel, and I really loved how there was so much rich history and modern designs. Are there any cultures
Yeah.
that have inspired you and that you use in your designs?
Oh, yeah. I'm really glad that you mentioned that. I think that kind of goes back to my travel experience and the designer that I'm still being shaped as today. I think going to, visiting my heritage roots. I was actually in India in November, Malaysia and India. It's my first time going to Malaysia. And then we were there in Malaysia. We went to Kuala Lumpur and Langkawi Island, and then we went over to India. And I haven't been back there in 11 years, and I have family and friends there that I've known for years. And I haven't seen them, but I've always kept in touch with them. And it was a really great opportunity to go back out there. And I actually took my aunt and my cousin on my mom's side. So my dad is Indian, my mom is Persian. So the Persian side was introduced to the Indian side, and it was a huge culture shock for them. It was, I still remember. I mean, it's not a culture shock for me anymore, but I think things have changed over time. I think in the past decade, which is unfortunate because it's so polluted there. It's becoming, it's super overpopulated. Going to my dad's hometown in New Delhi, that was like a whole. It was really sad because there were a lot of like historical places we went to go visit that is just, it's polluted, it's changed, it's evolved, people have changed, government has changed. So we actually went out to Udaipur, which is known for a city surrounded by like, different lakes, and it is just absolutely wow. I mean, talk about history, like British Empire and the Mughal Empire kind of meshed in the whole city, and that was like really cool to experience different architecture that I've seen in the past when I was in India, and seeing just my ancestors, how they lived, and that was actually really cool. And India's got such rich history and architecture and art and textile, and I absolutely love my motherland there. And it's so great because like I'm so grateful that I come from that heritage, because I feel like a lot of people like envy, like, going to visit and seeing the culture, and hearing lots of things, like crazy stories, like, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's such an experience, and I'm such a big experience. I love experiences, and especially going with my family too. It's like really unique because I think that really shapes that kind of environment too, which kind of gives me a lot of inspiration of like when I visit these different places and these spaces too, and how has time evolved over, and it's really cool. It's really awesome to see that.
But what do you wish the design school taught you that you know now and would like people to know?
Time management, time management, how to work more, you know, productively, sufficiently, when you're thrown like 2, 3 different projects at you and there's not enough time in the day, you know. I think that's something I wish I got mentored on a little bit more.